Hazur, my question is this. Muslims hold divergent views on the question of insurance as to whether Islam approves it or not, since it is a Western device meant to spread risks of a common nature amongst many people with identical interests. I want to know.
Also, this is your own profession now, huh?
Sir?
It directly concerns your profession as well.
Yes, sir.
You are in the banking, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
That's right, yes. Please, if you have another question to ask, you can keep sitting there. You can get up from there, please. Now. I have explained it many a time before, and I'll repeat it for you, that insurance as such is not prohibited in Islam. Islam goes for the security, preaches security, promotes security and peace. But that should be brought about in a legal manner. That is, according to Islamic law, the way you achieve the security should be legal. Now, the insurance as such is not prohibited. In fact, it is a very good concept. But the way the insurance companies ran in the beginning, as they came into the offing, there two strong objections from Islamic point of view could be raised against them. Number one, they had a very strong permanent feature of usury or interest. And secondly, they had a very prominent and strong feature of, what do you call it? Game of chance? Gambling, that's right, yes. So there was a game of chance or gambling attached to it so tenaciously that the very concept of insurance was woven with these two threads of interest and gambling. Either you get much more than you pay, or you lose all the deposit whatsoever. That was how the insurance began. So when Hazrat Masih Maud was written to by somebody who had got himself insured, Hazrat Masih Maud did not reject the idea of insurance outright. What he wanted to know was, write to me the conditions, then I'll decide. So when the conditions were reported to him, he said it has both the elements of interest and gambling. So even if you have to run a loss, you forget about it and leave the insurance immediately. So he left. Now, from time to time, this question was taken up by Jamaat Ahmediyya, and sometimes independent boards of scholars were constituted, and sometimes Majlis-e-Iftah was given the task of threshing the subject out again, considering the changes in the pattern of insurance which have been taking place ever since. I was also once appointed a member of the committee, and it was my task to collect the data of changing aspects of insurance historically. So my study revealed that the insurance as such has been traveling from un-Islamic values towards Islamic values, with the result that it was no longer a must for each participant or a policy holder to go into a contract on interest basis. It was ultimately left to him as a choice whether he would prefer an insurance with interest or without interest. Again, the element of gambling was also removed, because gradually insurance companies came into being, and now almost entire insurance companies have this, that you do not lose in any way the money you pay. You get it back, plus your risk is covered. Now that risk is covered through a law which is called the law of large numbers. In large numbers, the money which is accumulated and is put to some use, they can work out the profit and they can work out the risks, and those risks can be covered to the extent that if you return the money of every policyholder in full, still you can meet the accidental expenses which may be incurred, death and other things. So because of this, both these elements were removed. Yet there was a third element which was pointed out by Hazrat Muslim Maud Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu, and he said that although fundamentally and in principle these are the two objectionable elements, yet there is a third element to it, and that is that insurance has become an integral part of the Western banking system, and it helps accumulate money in a few hands. And insurance companies are also playing havoc with the world economy. Huge insurance companies and reinsurance companies have come into being, and they have become great capitalists. So where did their capital come from? In fact, they have become a source, a magnet for attracting money unless huge mountains are created. And that is against the general philosophy of Islam. Not a set principle in so many words, but the general financial philosophy of Islam does not promote collection of money in a few hands through a system which goes on increasing that concentration. So this was the objection raised by him. And he himself suggested in those days that if some sorts of insurance companies who are run on mutual basis, loss and profit basis, with mutual shareholders, so that the policy makers also have some share in the company, and they in the long run are responsible for loss and profit, that would be something very close to Islam. That was one element which got introduced again, and this mutual insurance became more popular. So when I studied the history, I found it surprisingly gaining more ground, with the result that there is a constant ascending graph vis-a-vis the ratio between the mutual insurance companies and non-mutual insurance companies. So that was one factor which brought insurance of the present day still closer to Islam. Yet there was another factor which had to be looked into, that the insurance companies as such play dice. They gamble in a manner that when you calculate the risks, you'll be surprised to learn that if today we dissolve all the insurance companies, each insurance company would go under debt. What they are doing is, now this was some discovery which resulted out of my investigation. The fact is that they are in fact deceiving the world in a way. They present their budgets in a manner that they always appear to have more money than they have to pay. But the ordinary people do not know that they include in their budget of the present year the money which they have to pay to the future people, say about extending up to 20, 30, 40 years. They have already taken their money, they have consumed that money, and they are responsible for all the accidents and things and the full payment of the future 20 years. When they enter the next year, they get new income for the next year. So this fraud is never discovered by the people. It's a continuous process. But this continuous process ripens ultimately into some catastrophe, particularly during the crisis of the World War and things. And suddenly these companies go bankrupt, and all the people who went to them for their security end up in total insecurity and loss. So all these things have to be taken into account. As far as the individual policyholder is concerned, all we can do is now to advise him that as far as your own decision is concerned, insurance as such is not against the principles of Islam. Try to get a policy with which you avoid both the elements of gambling as well as the interest, and hope for the best if you must do it. But Hazrat Muslim also pointed out another point which is very interesting. He said, I have also reservations against insurance because if Ahmadis pay their extra money to insurance companies, how will they pay chanda to Jamaat Ahmadiyya? So in fact what they save according to the Holy Quran, that should go to Allah. يَسَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ قُلِ الْعَفْوُ. They ask you, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, what they should spend in the way of Allah. Say whatever is left over. So Hazrat Muslim said that I see a great danger to the system of chanda of Ahmadiyyat, because it is the leftover with most of the people which they can pay. And there are very few rich people who can afford to do both things. But if at the ordinary level, people start paying the leftovers to the insurance company and they become insurance minded, then they would be weaned away from the Ahmadiyya system of contributions. That was the fear he expressed. And also, he assured Ahmadis that if for this sake they have their dependence upon Allah and get insured with Allah, paying their chanda instead of getting insured, I assure them that Allah's insurance company will treat them much better and much more generously. And they'll be looked after in ways that no insurance company can ever look after their policy holders. So this is the most final, the most clinching argument that I ever heard in favor of not insuring. And this is my personal inclination. But as far as the law is concerned, all we can do is we can advise Ahmadis, and that is all. As long as there is no element which is positively prohibited, we cannot stop them. But we can advise them and guide them to the right way. Those Ahmadis who have been paying chanda at their own personal sacrifices and without any regard to diverting that money to insurance companies and so on, they are much better off. They are looked after well by Allah and they are very happy, I know. So that is an experience to be gained before you judge. I think I have, though in short, but I have spoken of all the various aspects that I could speak on, right? Yes. Just a minute, another question from, have you got another question?
Not now.
Huh?
Not now.
Not now, okay, please.
I just wish to make an observation on the fourth element that you mentioned about insurance. The fact that...
Mutual?
Yes.
Mutual insurance?
No, the fourth element.
Which was that? Tell me.
You mentioned about the insurance companies going bankrupt.
Bankrupt ultimately. Yes, please. Yes.
On that possibility, the recent introduction amongst the banking and the insurance world has been that a fund has been set up. A mutual fund has been set up by the insurance companies, and the insurance companies themselves contribute to that fund, making sure that if any insurance companies goes bankrupt, they will
I know that.
Saving operation.
This is what I mentioned. You have forgotten that I said reassurance.
So reinsurance is that the companies reinsure their policies.
The reinsurance companies are those with whom the insurance companies get insured.
Right.
And that happens when individually an insurance company goes bankrupt. They can look after them. But I mentioned a possibility of great world upheaval. In those cases, no reinsurance companies can pay for the entire world insurance systems.
Quite true.
Yes.
But apart from the possibility of that upheaval occurring, where the whole banking system and the insurance system would collapse, in terms of individual insurance companies collapsing,
I know that there is a reinsurance. I agree fully. Right. But I'm talking of the world wars which hit, do not directly. When the world wars approach, right, something goes wrong with the world economy. Mm-hmm. Recession set in. And many things begin to happen very crookedly and cunningly under the surface. And the money lenders, the world's great money lenders, they begin to play havoc with the financial system of the world. Mm-hmm. And they are ready for launching themselves into the huge profits which wars offer them ultimately. Mm-hmm. So these are the times when these systems fail. In fact, such times came prior to the world wars, First World War and the Second World War, and now you will see when the Third World War comes, things of this crooked nature will begin to happen.
So in fact, that observation has been made in the recent financial collapse of one of the leading banks in the United States and of the leading banks in the United Kingdom.
Correct.
This has happened without actually a world war occurring.
No, but the economy was traveling in that direction. Already signs have appeared, and that was also one of the hits of those future possibilities. They do not appear suddenly all over the world. Things of that nature begin to happen here and there, ultimately drop by drop it becomes rain. So you are referring to the collapse of the American bank,
Continental
which was supported by all the other banks as well. For a while it was kept alive, but ultimately it capsized. And they couldn't keep it alive anymore.
Well, they have managed to rescue the bank and have appointed a new board.
Yes,
the FDIC have taken over.
That's right, but the previous bank is finished, a new bank has in fact come into being. That's right, yes.
And similarly, over the last weekend in the United Kingdom...
Is it your profession that you know of these things? I see. What's your profession?
Banking.
What are you in the banking?
Sir, I'm an executive officer with the Central Accounts Division.
I see, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So any other question, please? And you observe many interesting things happening when the poor countries will not be able to pay back their debts. Then other elements will creep into this. You have another observation about that to make? Please come on.
Well, I just wanted to point out that the major banks in fact are being forced into a situation where they have to reschedule the debts of the third world countries, and thereby it becomes a system where it goes on and on and on, and ultimately a day will come, as you've observed, right, which will end up creating havoc in the world.
Right. Very, very minute things happen, though in unconcerned, indirectly, they begin to influence these things. But they do happen. Now, for instance, the medical profession directly has nothing to do with it, as Dr. Latif Qureshi would bear me out. But in America and other advanced countries, the medical risks have been rising steadily, with the result that the doctors felt very much insecure. Now, this is how this insurance company has become a sort of racket, mafia type thing, which has sent its tentacles into all professions and all clean things. Now, the result was that because of the American laws, anyone who felt that the doctor had been negligent to him could sue him. And the amount against which he sued was so colossal that if the doctor sold out all his property, he could not meet that demand. The result was that he immediately got insured against that sum. And when he got insured against that sum, he had the possibility of quite a few such cases. So the insurance amount was quite huge. He had to pay a huge premium, with the result that he raised his fees and charged these patients. And a vicious circle started, with the result that now to become ill in United States, if you are not insured, is a greater risk than to die. So the result is that the whole system has completely gone out of the control of either the patients or the physicians, and they have been caught up under the clutches of great insurance companies. Now, during the recessions, what happens? People then do not pay extras. They would rather run the risks than pay heavily for these things. And suddenly the insurance companies start getting less and less from these directions previously which supported them quite substantially. So the system of medical reassurance and some others also get affected, because then bread becomes more important gradually in the life of everybody. And these insurance companies in the advanced countries are running on an artificial economy and artificial way of life. So during the recessions, that way of life, which is artificial and which has in fact risen much beyond the substance of the economy. Skyscrapers of useless requirements are built, without which man could live. So they begin to be demolished from the top, and also the insurance companies become diminished exactly in correspondence with that diminution. The result is that suddenly they are caught in this mess and they can't help. And then the people are hit back once again. And again they lower their extra spendings. So economy, once it has lost its balance and organization, then it goes tumbling down, and nobody can stop. No world government can stop it. So these things happen, and this is why Islamic systems are the safest systems. They are based on morality, on reality, on a poise and balance. So the only safety lies in Islamic concepts, whether they are about the financial systems or morality, whatever they be. Yes, please.
Islam.